Welcome back, everyone, to the Key Learning Points show, where we break down big ideas from the world of personal development into easy-to-digest pieces.
You got it.
And today we've got three really fascinating topics lined up.
Oh, yeah, we do.
First up, we're going to be talking about something I've called Before Midnight. And it's actually a bit of a personal story. And it all revolves around the night before my 18th birthday.
Oh, interesting.
So, you might think, oh, big party, big celebration,
Right.
right? Turning 18, legal adult. But for me, it was more about taking a step back and looking inward, just sort of
Taking
reflecting.
kind of a self-inventory.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, this is a big milestone, one chapter ending, another one beginning. And I really wanted to understand what those first 18 years had actually been about.
Yeah.
So what I did was I came up with this, cost-free plan, as I call it.
Okay.
Just me lying in bed, trying to get my mind totally clear. And the goal was to basically do this mental review of my entire life up to that point. So from age 1 all the way to 17.
Wow. To condense almost 2 decades of experience into, one single mental exercise.
It was intense. But the point was to really boil it down to, what truly mattered. When you try to cram that much life into, a short span of time, all the little, extra details, they just kind of fade away.
Makes sense. So what was it that really stood out?
It's funny. What remained, what was super clear, was people.
People.
Yeah, faces, interactions, moments shared, my family, of course, my closest friends, even the people I knew, less well, but who I'd had some kind of meaningful experience with.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how big or small.
Yeah.
It wasn't about things I'd done or stuff I had. It was about those human connections.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you were to do that same exercise, what memories would be the most vivid for you? And how would that, affect how you live going forward?
It's a powerful question. And for me that night, it really solidified something, like a personal truth. And it's this, that yes, technology and progress are all part of life, but my number one focus, my core commitment, it had to be to nurturing those human relationships, putting people first.
And is that something that stuck with you?
It's interesting. After more than a decade, that truth still feels so incredibly relevant and important.
Showing how such a deliberate moment of self-reflection can truly define our values and guide our choices in the long run.
Absolutely. And I know that if someone else were to do this same exercise, their central truth might be totally different.
Right.
Maybe it's a deep love of learning, the joy of creating or the drive to achieve some specific goal. The value is in discovering what really resonates deep down inside you.
For sure. You mentioned the idea of empathy in relation to these human connections. How does that fit into the picture you're painting?
Well, it struck me that these relationships are so rich and meaningful precisely because of empathy. It's like this amazing, often unspoken way we connect. Right? We can sort of step into someone else's shoes and get a glimpse of their world. We can't live every single life, experience every challenge or every victory firsthand. But through empathy, we can learn and grow in ways that we couldn't otherwise.
It's like a kind of vicarious learning. We can absorb lessons and understanding without actually having to go through those experiences ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. By really listening, trying to grasp what another person's going through, even feel what they're feeling, we can gain wisdom from their journey. It could even help us avoid some of our own mistakes, and get a wider perspective on how complex life is.
And it's not just about avoiding the negative. It's also about sharing in the positive, right? And appreciating all the different ways people experience the world.
100%. And there's this quote that I love about empathy. Tony Alessandra said that real empathy lies in simply finding the same place within yourself that the other person is experiencing. And that really hit home for me that night.
So powerful. It's about recognizing that shared humanity that connects us all beneath the surface.
That's a great segue actually into our second topic, which we've called first steps. So we've talked about the deep impact of these human connections. Now let's think about what happens when we try to step into something new, to venture into the unknown.
That can be so daunting, can't it?
Absolutely. And we all experience this, the initial resistance to change. Our brains are amazing at keeping us in our comfort zones. And anything unfamiliar can trigger this feeling of unease.
Even if it's something that we really want deep down.
It's like our biology is working against us.
In a way, yeah. It's a natural protective mechanism, trying to keep us safe from the unknown.
And, there's this very common belief that the hardest part is always that very first step, that initial leap.
Right.
Think about starting a conversation with someone you're really drawn to, or finally leaving a job that's just draining you, or taking the plunge and starting that business you've been dreaming of.
And I think a lot of people assume that once you take that first step, everything else will just kind of fall into place. Like the hard work is done, the problems will magically disappear.
But is that actually true?
Well, not really. In reality, that first step often takes up way more time and energy than we expect. And it's usually not perfect. Sometimes it's even completely wrong. But that's okay, because we're beginners, we're still figuring things out.
That's such an important point. So how do we get past that fear and the pressure we put on ourselves to make that first move absolutely perfect?
I find this mantra really helpful. The first step is just one of many. It's just one of many. Just repeating that to yourself can actually help to lessen the perceived importance of that single action. It makes it feel less scary.
It's about changing our perspective, right?
Yeah.
Not seeing it as this monumental make or break decision.
Exactly. Think of it like a hurdle race. You take that first step to propel yourself forward into the race. It's not about landing perfectly. It's about making a clear statement of intent.
Making a statement. I like that. What kind of statement should we be aiming to make with that initial action?
It's about communicating your story, your direction. What are your core values? What are your aspirations, your goals, your overall vision? The finer details, the perfect technique, all that can come later. What matters at the start is being true to yourself and expressing that.
So it's not about striving for perfection right out of the gate.
Nope. You're not trying to create a masterpiece with your first step. You're just declaring your intention, putting things in motion. Step one, done. On to the next.
That's really liberating. All right, let's move on to our third and final topic for today. We're calling this one Something Like.
Okay.
And this one explores, how we try to match our expectations with reality, where we've got tons of options to choose from.
I think we've all been there, right?
Oh, for sure. How many times have we said, I'm looking for something like this, but, maybe a little different? More or less, that's what I need.
It's almost our default way of explaining what we want. Like we have this vague idea, some minimum requirements, and we express them kind of loosely.
And what's interesting is that when we define our needs in that way, we often end up getting exactly that, the bare minimum, the option that requires the least effort, but, just barely meets our needs.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, right? How ambitious are we really being in those moments? How high are we aiming? And if we think about our whole lives, how many chances do we actually get to set those goals and really aim high?
How many, it feels like.
Yeah.
We're constantly getting caught up and just getting by.
It's true. We tend to achieve one thing and then immediately move on to the next desire. It's an endless cycle. But we have to be careful about how often we let ourselves truly strive for something bigger, something more meaningful.
So it's about not just settling for what's easy or convenient.
Exactly. Because there's real power in setting those ambitious goals. As long as you're asking for more, you're open to receiving more. It's about keeping that upward trajectory in your thinking and your actions.
And it's not just about asking, is it? There's something else going on.
Right. There's often this mirroring that happens. When you put more effort, more value, more intention, you tend to get more back, both internally and externally. You attract more of what you're putting out there.
That reminds me of a quote.
Me too.
Les Brown said, "Most people don't fail in life because they aim too high and miss. Most people fail in life because they aim too low and hit."
It really makes you stop and think.
It does. Maybe aiming high isn't about the risk of falling short, but more about unlocking possibilities that we haven't even considered yet.
Right on. It's about pushing past our self-imposed limits and refusing to settle for just something like what we really want and what we're capable of.
Well, this has been an incredibly thought-provoking deep dive, exploring the power of self-reflection, getting over those first step hurdles, and understanding the importance of setting our sights high.
Couldn't agree more. Each of these topics offers really valuable insights for personal growth and navigating life's ups and downs.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Key Learning Points Show.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep learning, keep growing,
And keep aiming high.
Bye, everyone.